Chapter 586, Fang Jie and Cao Ying. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. After thinking it over, Zhang Yuochen stuck his hand into his sleeve and quietly drew a purplish spinal card from the storage ring. Then, he took the spinal card out of his sleeve and held it between his fingers, saying, "Is this alright? It's the 9-star VIP card from the Martial Market Bank." Juan Muya gave a start again. Only those who had a deposit of 100 million pieces of spiritual crystals in the Martial Market Bank were qualified to get a 9-star VIP card. Generally, most half-cents only had an 8-star VIP card. Juan Muya nodded her head and whispered something to a maid next to her. The maid then walked up to the pillar and reached out her hands to pull the rope. Clomp, clomp. The white curtain between Zhang Yuochen and Juan Muya was gradually lifted. With the curtain out of the way, Juan Muya was finally able to size up the man across her. To her dismay, the man wore a metal mask that completely covered his face. Nevertheless, using a woman's intuition, she felt that the man was very young. Curiously, such a young man had no evil thoughts nor impurity in his eyes when he looked at her. Juan Muya began to wonder if she had lost her charm to men. He is so strong-minded, he must be no ordinary person. This was Juan Muya's first impression of Zhang Yuochen. It is a cultivation of the 6th change of the fish-dragon realm. Zhang Yuochen gave Juan Muya a quick once-over before looking away. He could immediately tell what level her cultivation was. The fantastically charming landlady had such a formidable cultivation. The mere thought of it made Zhang Yuochen cringe a little. Fortunately, back in Yunwu Commandery, he had not done anything to offend her. Otherwise, Zhang Yuochen would not have known how he had gotten himself killed. Zhang Yuochen saw through Juan Muya, but not the other way around. As a result, Juan Muya felt quite disgruntled. Who the hell is he? Juan Muya straightened up and walked gracefully toward Zhang Yuochen, smiling. With the 9-star VIP card, you can only withdraw spiritual crystals from the Martial Market Bank. There is no Martial Market Bank in the Eastern Evil Land. Instead, there is a black market. What can I do? As she spoke, Juan Muya swiftly reached out her soft and slender hands. In a flash, phantoms of her 10 fingers sprang up in the air. The phantom of each hand charged toward the 9-star VIP card between Zhang Yuochen's fingers. Her movements were seemingly nonchalant, but, in fact, was quick as lightning. It was just that Zhang Yuochen was faster. He easily warded off Juan Muya's hands by slightly waving his arms to form an arc. With her combative soul aroused, Juan Muya wiggled her slim waist. In a whiff of perfume, her body sank into Zhang Yuochen's chest. In no time, she had used Evil Storm Claw, an inferior class martial technique of the ghost level, to snatch the 9-star VIP card again. Her body pitifully fell on the chair, all her movements in vain. Unexpectedly, the chair Zhang Yuochen had been sitting on tumbled down, almost sending her crashing to the ground. Out of the blue, Zhang Yuochen was suddenly standing behind the chair, holding it with one hand. Staring at Juan Muya's eyes up close, he said, "Landlady, since I can produce a 9-star VIP card, I can also produce the spiritual crystals to buy holy stones. You don't have to worry about this." Juan Muya was irked, feeling humiliated by Zhang Yuochen. She was, after all, a top-notch beauty with both top-notch body and face. Zhang Yuochen wouldn't even look at her squarely, even trying to avoid her on purpose. What does he mean? Zhang Yuochen's reaction trampled Juan Muya's confidence. Back when they were in Yunwu Commandery, Zhang Yuochen shunned Juan Muya whenever he saw her because the landlady was an expert at flirting with men, often deliberately teasing him. Zhang Yuochen was no match for her back then. Now, Zhang Yuochen's spiritual power and cultivation had improved immensely. His old self was not even comparable. Of course, he could handle it with ease now. Juan Muya straightened her posture. Her plump breasts heaved as she stared at Zhang Yuochen while saying in a cold voice, "Good, I can mobilize 3 holy stones in 3 days. But it will be in the county city of Cyan Cloud County rather than Liuan City. You need to go to the Yuang Inn where we will exchange the spiritual crystals for holy stones on the spot. Do you have a problem with that? 3 holy stones? Although few, I can make do with them." Zhang Yuochen sat down again. He picked up his teacup and took a sip. Juan Muya chuckled. "Mr. Zhang, Are you not afraid that I might set an ambush in the county city? Not only will your holy stones be stolen, but you can also get yourself killed." Zhang Yuochen raised his head and looked at her full-figured, buxom body. He smiled as he said, "Since I dare to go, I am positive that I can leave there unscathed. Moreover, I would like to warn you that though you may want to kill me, there is also someone trying to kill you. Don't let your guard down or you may not know how you've gotten yourself killed." "What are you getting at?" Juan Muya wore a confused expression. Zhang Yuochen gave another warning. "Watch out." Swoosh. In the pool next to the pavilion, the shadow of a red figure radiating murderous feeling broke out of the water surface. Its body paused in midair before swooping into the pavilion on its left like a ray of flowing light. The red figure held a 3-foot-long spear in each hand. One shot toward Yuan Muya's head and the other was aimed at her heart from behind. The man's breath-holding technique was so superb that even Yuan Muya, with her high cultivation, failed to sense him lurking in the water. Moreover, his murderous feeling was extremely overwhelming, such that shortly after he flew out of the water, it quickly froze. Obviously, the man was a well-trained, top-class killer. Lurking at the bottom of the pool, he was definitely trying to assassinate Yuan Muya. As luck would have it, Zhang Yuochen had released his spiritual power beforehand to patrol the surroundings. Otherwise, even he would not have perceived the killer. As soon as Zhang Yuochen shouted "Watch out!" Yuan Muya instantly realized the danger. She hurriedly ran her genuine chi and employed the bodily movement martial technique Shadow of Light. She flew around the pavilion like a colorful butterfly and then perched on top of a rockery nearby. Boom! Although the two spear movements of the red figure failed to kill Yuan Muya, they sent out two strong shockwaves that shook the pavilion into pieces. Zhang Yuochen held out a hand to run his genuine chi and pulled Yuan Muya's pomades behind his back across the air, saving them from calamity. Otherwise, the man's spears and chi would have been strong enough to quake them all to death. "Mind your own business. I will give you a lesson later." The red figure's face was deathly pale like a zombie. He cast a callous glance at Zhang Yuochen and then he stormed out to continue attacking Yuan Muya. Zhang Yuochen stayed put on the chair with a cup in hand. He shook his head slightly and did not take the threat seriously. Despite Zhang Yuochen's warning, Yuan Muya's response was still a little bit slow, so one spear had brushed against her back and her clothes were rent open. A bloody gash was left on her snow-white skin. It was quite apparent that had her response been delayed by just a moment, she would have been killed by the spear. Standing on the top of the rockery, Yuan Muya said in a cold voice, "Fang Jie, how dare you assassinate me?" "Yuan Muya, I am under orders from our master to kill you. However, if you are willing to join the Blood Cloud sect and be my mistress, you could be spared today," Fang Jie said. "A mere Blood Cloud sect wants to take me in?" Yuan Muya shook her head and smiled wryly as if mocking Fang Jie's ignorance. "You really want it the hard way? In that case, I might as well train your cultivation and then teach you how to be a woman." Double Dragon Death Spear. Fang Jie let out an evil laugh and swiftly wielded his two spears to launch successive assaults on Yuan Muya. Fang Jie had been drooling over Yuan Muya, the stunner, for a long time. Yuan Muya was a member of the moon worship demonic sect, and, in the past, Fang Jie had no choice but to repress his inner desire for her. Now that the relationship between the black market and the heresy had turned nasty, a secret order had been issued from the higher-ups. The first move was to get rid of the chiefs of the heresy in each county. By flexing their muscles and frightening the heresy into submission, the latter would have to retreat out of the eastern evil soil. Since that was the case, Fang Jie discarded his scruples and volunteered to take the order to kill Yuan Muya. If he could take the stunner, he was willing to have his lifespan cut down by 20 years for this. Boom! One of Fang Jie's attacks turned into a spear shadow as wide as a pillar. It cleaved the top of the 9-meter-high rockery, causing it to crumble to pieces. Yuan Muya had intended to fight back, but as she started to run her genuine chi, bouts of sizzling pain crept up her back and meridians, making it harder and slower for her to run her genuine chi. Poison. Yuan Muya screamed inwardly. The weapons in Fang Jie's hands were called soul-taking twin spears. They fell into the category of the 11th level genuine martial arms. Aside from that, The short spears had been soaked in highly poisonous toxin all these years. As soon as they cut a bloody wound on the body of a monk, the toxin would quickly spread inside and erode the monk's genuine chi. Crash. Nevertheless, Duan Muya ran her genuine chi by force and gave 2 handprints, narrowly striking back Fang Jie's blow. The soul taking twin spears, one giving off puffs of cold air and the other billowing leaping flames. Both went through her handprints and barely stabbed her waist. The sharp-edged spears snapped her belt amidst the sound of ripping cloth. Fang Jie is the number 8 killer of Blood Cloud sect. His cultivation has reached the peak of the 6th change of the Fish Dragon realm. Being poisoned, I am no match for him. I have to get out of here. Duan Muya was keenly aware of her situation and she also knew how strong Fang Jie was. Now that she could not defeat her enemy, she had to retreat. When the toxin inside her body has fully served its purpose, it would be too late to flee. Of course, she had to bring Mu Link's eye with her when she escaped. Since the seal inside Mu Link's eye remained unsplit, her cultivation had not recovered, and therefore, she could not possibly be Fang Jie's opponent. If the Saintess of Moon Worship sect fell into the hands of Blood Cloud sect, the consequences would be unimaginable. Using the bodily movement martial technique Shadow of Light, Duan Muya flung her tender body up from the ground as if stepping on wind and then hurried away to the Dan Tower. Duan Muya, there is no escape. With a swoosh, a tall, thin man clad in a black skin-tight suit appeared from nowhere on the colored glaze-tiled roof below. Then, the man zoomed toward Duan Muya with a long sword in hand, about to stab her in the throat. Unlike Fang Jie, the tall, thin man was a cold-blooded killer. Each of his sword movements was meant to take away Duan Muya's life. It is Cao Ying, the number 9 killer of Blood Cloud sect. Duan Muya's face became ashen. The Blood Cloud sect sent out 2 master assassins. Could there be other superiors hiding in the neighborhood? Duan Muya's heart sank, thinking that escape was now just a dream.